but he was not a Goliath. And he was a man that no one would really be able to see any distinction just through their eyes when he began to demonstrate his strength. They didn't say, wow, he really, really has worked out, and he must be on steroids. Now, whatever that was in Israel, in the ancient world, I don't think that's the case, because one of the things that they were marveling at is that where did he get his strength from? And it wasn't just from lifting weights. It was from lifting Philistines and throwing them around. Yeah, John?
Well, in 1949, there was a movie with Victor Mature.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
And that's probably what Samson's size was.
Yeah.
Just a regular guy.
Right. I think you're right. I saw one that was a little later, and it was some unknown actor, but he was Mr. America or something like that, you know, like Schwarzenegger. Wasn't much of an actor, but he was a specimen. And the odd thing in those stories is that when Delilah had basically betrayed him, she was brokenhearted. She came to him in prison crying, saying, I'll gladly give the silver back to them if you'll just come home with me. Where is that? That's from a different Bible than I've ever read.
It's a better story, though.
Yeah, it's called Poetic License. And people take poetic license to read in all kinds of things. So that's why I'm reluctant sometimes to ask about the hypothetical, but I will put one more hypothetical here before we start this story. After the deed was done, what do you think Delilah did? I know the text doesn't tell us. She what? I think you're right.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I think you're right, Stacy, that she went shopping at whatever it was, at the jewelry. It may have been like going down Main Street here with the taste of Damascus and the smell of Dubai and all of these shops that are out here now. That very, very similar. That she just went shopping. Because the Bible doesn't tell us one thing that says she's not important. She's not important to the story. And actually, to another extent, Samson's not important. He is the vehicle through which this story is being told. But he is a prop. Now, I don't know if I've ever covered this before with you or not, about particularly in ancient Near Eastern literature, when stories were told, props were used, and we sometimes lose sight of the message because we focus on the prop. A great story of that is David and Goliath. Goliath is a prop. The story is not about David and Goliath. It's not about that at all. That story is about David and Saul. Two men of God facing the same opponent with two different ideas. Saul says we can't conquer him. And David says, what do you mean? Jehovah is our God. We can conquer anything. Why are you letting this big jerk push us around like this? And that must have been a humbling moment for Saul when he realized that this little shepherd boy just showed him up about his faith in God and what God would do for him. And Goliath was just simply a prop to move this story along. Jonah is full of props. The ship with the men is a prop. The great fish, the storm is a prop. The great fish is a prop. All of these things that God set them up for Jonah to go through, those were all props to move the story forward to get him into Nineveh. And then Jonah turned out himself to be a prop, because the story was about God's mercy and grace upon people who were not the children of Abraham. These were Ninevites. They were pagans. And God loved them too. And God showed mercy on them. And we have a hint of that in the 4th chapter when Jonah says, I knew you were going to do this. People sometimes make the mistake of thinking Jonah didn't go to Assyria because he was afraid of them. That's not it. From his own mouth, he says the reason he didn't want to go there is because he knew God would save them, and he hated the Assyrians so deeply and fiercely that he did not want them to be saved. The Assyrians were held in great loathsome disrepute worldwide because they were so violent and so cruel and wicked. And someday when we study the book of Nahum, I'll tell you more about it, about the Ninevites. But during that period of time, God had mercy on that, and they all repented. And Jonah said, I knew that's what they were going to do, and I knew that you would save them. What kind of preacher would that be? I always compared Jonah with Noah. Jonah preached 3 days. He had a weekend meeting and converted the entire town. And he was mad. Noah preached for 120 years and saved only his family. I mean, what kind of success is that? As a preacher, you would think, man, I'm a failure. Well, yeah, you saved your family, though. What does that have to do with Samson? I've really gone off here.
I'm trying to tie it together.
I know. Okay, you'll get it. Samson the prop. Delilah's a prop. And the story is about God against the Philistines. And he's using these people. And that's why Delilah, once she's out of the picture, we don't hear about her. Because she's not important to the story. She is important to move the story along. She's going to get Samson to this state where he needs to be to move against the Philistines. All right. Any question about what I've said? Okay, about the text here now. In the 4th verse of chapter 16 is where the story with Delilah comes to us here now. And we had noted this, that now afterward it happened that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek. We saw the valley of Sorek, it's right here. This is where he found Delilah. It's the valley that moves westward towards the Mediterranean Sea. There's a river in that. And the thing that stands out most in verse 4 is this is the first time the word love is used. Now, whether she reciprocated that love or not, I believe it's highly doubtful. But I want you to see something here. Now, see if we can just jump ahead and get you to start thinking about these. Flip back to chapter 14. All right. Chapter 14 and verse 1. We read, Now Samson went down to Timnah, and he saw a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. This is his first episode of his love for the Philistine women. All right, now just hold that. 14:1. Now compare it with 16:1. Chapter 16, verse 1. Then Samson went down to Gaza and saw a harlot there and went into her. Now, what do those two verses have in common, besides the fact that he was promiscuous and was committing fornication? Besides that, there's one word that jumps out in those two verses that are not in our text tonight in chapter 16 and verse 4. Yeah. There's no love in the first two, chapter 14, 16, but now he loves them. He was lusting after these women. He was a womanizer that he was just prompted by what he saw. Now, would that have any particular significance to the story of Samson, you think? Looking at this now, he loves Delilah, but the other ones. I'm sure he saw Delilah too. Maybe it was love at first sight, maybe it wasn't. But what happened to Samson? What did they do to him before he died?
Plucked out his eyes.
They put out his eyes. The eyes were the means by which Samson was lusting after all of these Philistine women. He wouldn't go home. He stayed in Philistia. And he no doubt saw Delilah, and that's the first one that he loved. But she is the one that now is going to be his undoing, and in more ways than one. So I think that's just interesting to note as we pass through that here in chapter 16. And so the lords of the Philistines come to her in verse 5 of chapter 16. And they say, entice him and find out where his great strength lies. His reputation is now nationwide. Everyone knows who he is. They're all afraid of him. They're looking for an opportunity to move against him. And they know his weakness is women. They know his weakness. They just don't know his strength. They can keep throwing women at him, and he's weak, he's weak, he's weak, he's weak. But then these moments of stupendous, surreal strength with the gates of the city and the killing of the 1,000 men with the jawbone of the donkey and all this. We've got to find out what his strength is. So that's what they're focusing in on, and they're trying to get her to entice him, as we had mentioned Sunday, to his first wife that he never married, that he was betrothed to. They said, either you find out or we'll kill you and your father. And that's what they ended up doing. So this time, rather than threatening them, they hang a carrot out in front of her. And something that I hadn't caught on until studying for this here is that when they come together in verse 5 and say, if you'll give him and find out how we can bind him, we will, every one of us, give you 1,100 pieces of silver. Now, we had said Sunday about 1,100 pieces of silver, that's a lot. Well, we've missed something in that. Back in Joshua 13, there were 5 districts of Philistia, 5 lords, and they said, each one of us will give you 1,100. That's 5,500 pieces of silver. I think that would probably cover a year's wage, do you think?
What, 30 pieces of silver was a year's wage?
Yeah, if 30 pieces were considered to be the price of a slave or a year's wages, I think she's set for life.
36 times 5.
Yeah. Okay, now what we have here is the first 401k from the ancient days. So she's set, and she will receive that money. So I'm with Stacy. She just had a nice fat checkbook. That's what he used, and she took off and went shopping. Yes, John.
I find it interesting that they know his power comes from somewhere, and they're not really actively trying to see how they can themselves have this power.
Right.
They're so afraid of it, they want nothing to do with it really, except how to get rid of it.
Samson knows it is from God through his mother, the Nazirite vow, and he knows as long as he keeps this vow, God would give it. And that he gave God the glory when he was able to do those things. But that's a good point. His enemies were not looking for it so that they could help themselves and be a part of that and be on the winning side. Rather, they look at it from a defensive side. We want to destroy it. So we're really happy with Dagon. Dagon has really done well with us, our God. Oh, really? Okay, now here's where these tests come in. When she throws this thing out to him, she said, you don't love me. Tell me where your strength is. This is a test, first of all, between Delilah and Samson, of course. It's between the Philistines and the Israelites, or more specifically, the God of Dagon against Jehovah. It'll be a test from God to Samson to see if he's going to stay faithful with this. And all of these tests that are involved in this proposition, that's really the heart of the story here. And so why I say Delilah is a prop, and to a certain extent, Samson is a prop. Because the principles in this story are Jehovah and Dagon. Now who is stronger here? And that's why in this spectacular conclusion, it's not going to be done out in secret, out in the desert. It will be in the temple of Dagon, where the god will fall and they will all be destroyed with him. Yes.
Do you suppose that at the end there was a change of heart in Samson? I mean, as you look at the final bit of this thing?
Well, I would simply say this, is that recognizing what all that he, to quote Victor Mature, what he said, but looking at what we have read in the scriptures here, he knows that he has sinned grievously against God. And in his final request, he's asking for God to help him one more time so that he could make things right. Whether his heart had changed or not, it certainly seems to be he finally is reminded where his strength came from. And having lost his strength, I'm going to reserve my comments for that when we get to the last part of this trial here. But there's something that clearly happens within Solomon's mind on this. Were you going to say that? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So verse 6, Delilah said to Samson, tell me where your great strength lies and with what may be bound to afflict you. Now, if you're Samson and you hear her say this in verse 6, wouldn't your antenna go up and you think, oh, wouldn't that little red flag, would that make you think, how could we afflict you? Samson said to her in verse 7, if they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings, not yet dried, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. Be like any other man. That's why I believe personally is that he was not a physical specimen that would stand out from everyone else. He didn't go to the gym like other actors would to portray Samson. Samson would be like any other man. But there's something about him that clearly was different that was inexplicable outside of God. And so verse 6, the lords of the Philistines brought to her 7 fresh bowstrings, not yet dried. She bound him with them. How did she do that? I don't know. We know he cut his hair when he was asleep. But she said, oh, hey, Sammy, let's play a game. I'll tie you up and then you tie me up. I don't know how that happened. But somehow he let himself be tied up by these. And he said, what do you got there? Well, I have 7 fresh bowstrings. Oh, yeah, just like you had told us. And there were men lying in wait, staying with her in the room. Oh, boy. That's nothing short of an ambush. She has premeditated this. This is a premeditated attack, an ambush. They're lying in wait, ties them up, and then she yelled to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. He broke the bowstrings as a strand of yarn breaks when it touches fire. So the secret of his strength was not yet known. Now, if you're Samson right there, right at this point, what should you be thinking? She does not have my best interest at heart. Duh, really. And this is not a game or a riddle. This is something now that is a major issue between this husband and wife, the lack of trust. Now, she's going to push it to her side. You don't love me, you don't trust me because you won't tell me. So he tells her something, proving that she is seeking his demise. What do you think she's going to say after this? What Samson should have said, obviously, is that, why would you do this if you really love me? But she flips around, if you really love me, you would tell me the truth. I tell you something that is testing you, and it proves you don't love me. This is a sad thing. Let me just stop her. I don't know if it's possible for her or not, outside of Hollywood, whatever they may think about what Delilah did after this betrayal or something like that. But there is a life lesson here. When I was a young man, there was a young couple that he said, I'm done with this. I just don't love her anymore. And the preacher got a hold of him and he sat him down and he said, well, here's your solution. You start loving her. Loving is not a feeling. Loving is something that you commit to and you do. And if you're waiting for cupids and hearts and clouds and Hallmark cards, that's not what love is. You said you loved her once before. You gave your word before God. The solution to your problem is start loving them. And that is universally true with every husband and wife. It's so convenient to say, well, I just stopped loving there. Well, okay. Well, you had a choice to love him to begin with. Now you also have a choice to start re-loving. Now, Delilah had said, I'm sorry, I love you, Samson. We're not going to let this be a problem. We wouldn't have this story. So I don't have this right. It just strikes me that this is a life lesson that they demonstrate a serious shortcoming there. James?
I kind of wonder if maybe Samson didn't, he must have gotten these questions other times in his life, I would assume. Mm-hmm. And maybe he just had, these are some of these rote answers. It still doesn't explain why he doesn't connect the very easy dots of, I told Delilah, and then the same thing happened to me. But I'm sure he's just giving the same lies that he's always given to anyone who's ever asked him, kids, whatever it might be. Where do you get all your strength? Oh, it's this. Because he didn't want to give away his real
Wheaties. Yeah. That'll be a good title for that chapter here. Samson's failure to connect very easy dots. If you're two really easy dots to connect and you can't make that connection here, yeah, Barry?
You said that she was his wife, and am I just missing it? I'm not sure.
Well, I
don't know.
misspoke.
Okay.
That was his intent. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think they had the ceremony. You're right.
Okay.
I misspoke there. That's right.
But he loved her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
So-
and it almost reminds me of how a woman of today that will take the abuse and of a man in jail or whatever because I love him. I mean, this
Yeah.
Samson is acting in the same way,
Right.
you know. So because I love her,
Yeah.
that's why I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
even if he knows it's wrong and he knows he's getting in trouble.
Yeah. I wonder if under Philistine law they were just common law wife and husband,
Yeah.
possibly. Just interesting to think about that. This thing is flawed from the beginning.
Or she may have
obviously.
been harlot number 2.
Yeah, it very well could be. And one of the things that's missing in the description of Delilah, I mean, we're assuming here that she was lovely to look upon. But there may be something about her personality at the beginning that was attractive to Samson in how she reacted to him, what she said to him, her personality that could be a false front that I'm just putting on a show, and then after we get married, you'll find out who I really am. That happens all the time, and it's one of the greatest tragedies here. I don't know about this, but we've already recognized that Samson is not an intellectual giant when it comes to women. This is his falling down. Yes, Jason?
And that's kind of how I see it, where she's just such a master manipulator. She can just,
Right.
wiggle her way through, and he
Right.
just falls for all.
And one thing that is missing in this story is that she is not a person of Philistine renown. She's not a princess. She's not a noble. She's just somebody that lives in this valley right here. She's not in a palace. I don't know where she was living, how he found her, but she's just out there. She's not living in one of the major cities. Had she been some kind of noble person or a daughter of a nobleman or a princess or something of that nature, likely would have lived in one of the 5 capital cities of Philistia, but she's just out here in this valley.
So that to me shows her wit and her ability to be able to support herself and take care of herself without a man. She doesn't have a husband. And back then, you were more property than you were a person.
Yeah,
so she
that's
took
right.
care of herself and was able to,
Right? That's an interesting thought about that. Pre-Samson, what was her life like? Who did she live with? Was Samson number 2 or 3 for her? Or what? Interesting to think about that, John.
Well, she may have been married, and he just said, "Well, you're not anymore."
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he said, it's always interesting to me. He does this, doesn't really say that what he does to the Philistines in the room.
Right.
But speaking of how she manipulates people, she kept having the Philistines come back, and they kept coming back.
Yeah.
I must say, wow, you go this time.
Yeah. Because those guys don't come back.
Right. Exactly.
But in the 4th and the final one, they're all convinced this is the truth.
Yeah.
And so they'll all go. Whatever was happening with Samson, one thing is going to be fairly clear about what she's able to do to him. So verse 10, Delilah said to Samson, "Look, you have mocked me and told me lies. Now please tell me what you may be bound with." So he said to her, "If they bind me securely with new ropes that have never been used, then I shall become weak and be like any other man." Therefore Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them. How did she do that? I don't know. The same way she did with the bowstrings. If I was Samson, I'd be thinking, don't go to sleep in front of her. Maybe find some other secure place to sleep at, whatever it was. And so she did that, and then she said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson," and there were men lying in wait. Again, just like the first time, they're ambushing him in his room. But he broke them off his arms like a thread. Then Delilah said to Samson, "Until now you have mocked me." We don't hear anything from Samson about, "Delilah, why are you doing this?" It's all from her. Look at what you've done to me. You've done this to me. Now, he's the man that is under great jeopardy in this whole scenario, but she turns it to, look what you've done to me. I'm the victim here. She would fit in right well today, wouldn't she? Look at what you've done to me. You've told me lies. Now tell me what you'll be bound with. And he said to her, if you weave the 7 locks of my head into the web of the loom. So she wove it tightly with the batten of the loom. Batten is that, that piece of wood that goes back and forth. You ever been up on the Navajo reservation to see the women that make the Navajo rugs? You can see how they do that and throw that thing back and forth. Well, she just tied his hair up in this loom right there and said, well, that'll take care of it. So she wove it tightly. How did she do that without him being awake? I don't know. Wouldn't you think? I don't know. I don't know. This is just pure subjection on my part. But maybe by now, I'm going to try to give him a little bit of credit. Maybe by now, having gone through this a couple of times, he tells her, and this time he stays awake, knowing that he can get out of this. This is not going to, and he just sits there and watches her do this. And I don't know, interesting that if he would allow this, and I think that might, I don't know, that might be how she's able to weave his hair into this loom. And so verse 14, she wove it tightly. Yes?
Yeah, it says that he slept on this one.
Yeah, but he woke from his sleep. Was he really asleep?
Oh,
I think so.
okay, I got you.
Yeah. See,
Thank you.
is he faking it here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I said I want to throw him a bone here. I want to give him maybe a little bit credit.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't. I would like to think that he was smart enough to do that, but because he knew that wouldn't happen.
Right.
But this next one, he is going to be asleep, and he knows this is how he's going to lose his strength. Barry?
As I read this story, it's possible that he doesn't know that the Philistines are in the room. That she's got them hidden in there somewhere,
Right.
and she yells, "The Philistines are on you!" And all it tells us is he breaks the cords, he breaks the ropes, he gets up with the beams. We don't know if he had a fight with them or anything, so it may have been a personal test between her and him without him throwing the others out.
That's a good point, because if you're one of the Philistines hiding there,
Yeah.
and he breaks away, you go, oh.
Yep, I'm going to wait right here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how my thinking has been, is, you talked about it, her maybe making it a game.
Yeah.
And her saying like, oh, what is it? And you tell her, she's like, okay, let's try it. Let's give it a try. And then she does it, and then she calls, knowing they're in the room, and then seeing, oh, you just snapped out of it. Nope, that wasn't it. And so, like you said, they're playing this like, nope, stay behind the curtain.
We're staying put. We're staying. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Likely they did. So, however this is going on.
Well, they came back. So
Yeah.
if they came back, that means that they were probably hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They checked the room for any skeletons or donkey bones.
I never thought of that. That's a
Yeah.
really good point.
Okay, well, then now the finale here. Verse 15, she said, how can you say I love you? You don't love me. And this is what Samson would have said, you would think, likely, if they had gone to a divorce court. I don't know what the judge would have said on that. How can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times and have not told me where your great strength lies. Came to pass when she pestered him daily with her words and pressed him so that his soul was vexed to the point of death. This is not just, you're just nagging me and it's bothering me and giving me a headache. This is now, he is in a circumstance and situation that he would like to be relieved from. Vexed to death. And without jumping too far ahead, he's going to get his wish. He'll get his wish from this. Yeah, Tasha.
Do you ever wonder if, from Delilah, if she ever started to, and this is all speculation, but like the dramaticness of her appeals to him could also maybe come from a place of like, how much longer are these rulers going to be patient with me and trying to find out the secret of his strength before they take all the money away and or kill me or do something else to me. And so as the story progresses, here she is, she's called them 3 times to come wait for him to fall asleep or however it is she's getting him to do what she needs to do to him, that they're going to be like, how many more times are you going to call us out here? Like, you're not doing what you have said you were going to do.
Right, I think that's a very viable possibility. And that will be removed here this fourth time. He'll convince everybody. But going along, she might worry about that. But I did a little word study on Delilah, the etymology of that. The base root is an Arabic word that means to flirt.
Really?
Yeah. How many people do you know named their daughters Delilah? They may be flirts.
Yeah.
If you called your girlfriend when you're in high school a Delilah, and she knew something about the Bible, how would she take that?
Your girlfriend very well.
Yeah, or say, oh, no, honey, I mean, you're just beautiful. I mean, she was the beauty of the land. Yeah, okay, all right. So you're making yourself Samson? Well, I don't know. Delilah is just a word that, like, you don't see that. You don't hear that. I don't know. We may one day soon here. I don't know. Maybe someone already has. I don't know. But, so, okay. Anyway, however that works, the story here reaches this climax when he's vexed to death, and it's showing that now he can't take this anymore. So he told her all that was in his heart, and he said to her, "No razor has ever come upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaven, then my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man." Now notice the beginning of verse 17 and the beginning of verse 18. He told her all that was in his heart. Verse 18, Delilah saw that he had told all that was in her. There was something about this was different. I get the impression that the first 3 times it was just kind of casual, almost flippant. Oh, let's see, 7 cords, yeah. Or 7 ropes, or yeah, the loom of a weaver. Yeah, something. But here it was now. It's as if he is so broken down, beaten down, that now the truth is going to come out. Like the spy in the war, when they beat and torture him until finally they give way and they tell the truth. And the captor can sometimes figure that out. Well, that's what's going on here. He's basically captivated by this woman, and she's going to beat this out of him in one figurative way or another. So he told her all that was in her heart, and she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up once more." Okay, one more time, just one more time. Back to what Natasha said. She worried about, don't you call us again, girl, until you've got the goods. And so she said, okay, one more time. "Come up once more, for he has told me all his heart." So the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hand. Now, whether they brought the money the first time or not, it doesn't tell us. But something about this 4th episode has convinced everyone that he has been beaten down mentally to the point where now he's going to tell them. And she has convinced the lords of the Philistines. So they have brought the money. This is the betrayal. This is the first Judas and the Lord here, not saying that Samson is the Lord, but something here to trying to destroy God's plan. It'll fall right into it. Verse 19, "Then she lulled him to sleep on her knees." Now, here whether he was faking or not, before I don't know, here he was so broken down, and she is down on the ground. She puts his head in her lap, and likely here so she can cut his hair and have people cut it. And she's no doubt stroking his head, and he is feeling relaxed. He's feeling calm. Whether or not he feels secure or not is anybody's guess. I sure wouldn't, but maybe it's to the point now where he doesn't care. John?
Man of great faith. I think he forgets. Obviously he forgets. Because it's really not his hair. Right? We all know it's, because it tells us in a second, it's not his hair. The Lord leaves him.
Right.
I think he just forgot. And in that moment of forgetfulness, weakness, whatever we want to call it, weakness, better word. In that moment of weakness, he just thought, I'll tell her this. It's not going to affect anything anyways, because I've got the Lord with me. See, that should have been his answer on the first time. Where's your power come from? From my God. Oh, we can't take that from you.
Yeah. That to me is a major point in this that is not simply a hypothetical, but is an alternative to this story. Had Samson told Delilah that my strength is in my God, he's the one, and it's his spirit that comes upon me mightily. Now, how is she going to affect that? How would she stop that? And that would have been the right, correct, and the best solution to all of this. But he doesn't do it. John said he forgot. Maybe he was weak. Maybe it was just a moment where, I don't know. He just, he doesn't want to even think about it. Natasha?
I was just going to say, I think, with him falling asleep in her lap, sometimes when you're carrying something and someone's been bugging you about it, I'm almost wondering if he felt this huge amount of relief of I told her the truth. And now we're even closer because now you know my secret. And yeah, I'll lay in your lap. Stroke my hair and make me feel safe and secure and loved. And I think throughout this whole thing, to me, I see him as I love her. And you've made comments before about how this is a man who probably got everything he wanted. Why would someone ever want to go against that?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I'm thinking he's sleeping like a baby, thinking, I told her everything. No.
Yeah.
Super.
Now I have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure many women do the same thing. Not what Natasha said, but what I'm about to say.
You're in trouble. You're in trouble, man.
Let's period, end of sentence.
Okay.
New paragraph. When we started having babies right away, and more babies, and we still have babies, and Dewey's dealing with baby. Baby get cross, upset. I'll say, Dewey, she showed me. She'd take that baby and just hold it tight. She'd just hold it tight. The baby may scream, but after a while, and the baby settles down and calms down. And she said that's what they need. Why they wrap them in tightly like that. Does that really work? Here, try me, honey.
Yeah.
And she did. I go, yeah, that worked. And I woke up and I had all my hair. So I thought, this is a good match. But yeah, I think that's what's going on here. She has lulled him to sleep here with his head on her lap, and now in a insidious, horrible act that she's about to go. I mean, what a despicable thing here to lull a person to their destruction. The Germans that took all the Jews and said, you're all going to get showers. We're going to get cleaned up and moved them into the gas chambers and killed them. The atrocity of mankind almost knows no limits. This one is one such that you would not think this would happen between a husband and wife. Two strangers, yes, maybe. Two soldiers, likely. But a husband and wife, if you can't trust, because I know the buzzer's going to ring here, so I'm just going to take this time. Natasha's point is such a important point about the husband and the wife and the connection that they have with their secrets, what you said, they know most about me, and the only one that does, that no one knows me better than my wife or my husband, and that builds a trust and a union that has been intended from the beginning of time with Adam and Eve, and that with that held together, a person can face lots of problems in life. But when we live in an age of throwaway marriages, no wonder people are so mentally and emotionally unstable. There's no one in their life. How stable was Samson emotionally? Goodness gracious. It's just what a sad, lonely death. And many people today in this very city, and we're no different than any other place in the world, people through a series of horrible decisions, they may find a very lonely, sad end because they did not trust, did not hold. Everyone has tough times, but they didn't keep loving. They just keep loving. And that's how we survive in this life. And there is no greater lesson to teach our children. Nothing greater. Send them to every school in the world to teach them everything and have every degree and learn everything. Nothing is more important than that. And I know I am preaching now, so I'll stop right there. Any question or comment about what we've studied here? tonight with Delilah.
I like your definition of love is a choice, and that is so true. I spent 30 years figuring that out, and that's really the key to loving someone is a choice, including God.
That's right. When we think love is happen chance, then people who think that way one day say, Lord, why didn't I get this?
Right.
Why didn't I have this? I had lunch or dinner several years ago with a high school buddy that I'd known most of my life, and then we lost touch. And we got back together, had dinner, and he was on his second wife, and they had all kinds of blah, 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 like that. And she said, now tell me about so well, we have 3 kids, and they married 3 people that we love just like our own children. So we have 6 children, and then we have 10 grandchildren, and I said, we love them just like our own. And she said, you don't have any problems? No. I said, no, they're our children, they're ours. And she said, very wistfully, she said, you are so lucky. And I thought to myself, no, girl, we're not lucky. We just were smart enough to put faith in God and His plan. And we married people who believed in God and had their faith in God. And that's how that happens. It's not luck.
That's right.
All right, we're out of time. Pick up there Sunday morning. Thank you.
Good, man. Yeah, I know that feeling.
I didn't notice it. I don't know about the others.
I'm gonna be,
By the time we're ready to buy it, everybody knows.
catch it when you get back. All right, sounds good. How are you tonight? Good. A buddy in Dallas is, he actually retired, well, first year.
You know, you have, you're speaking with me.
Something like to read.
From the company that run
I don't like reading. I don't mind reading. I don't like reading out loud.
Yeah. Part of our country for a while.
I'm checking in.
Yeah, retired, moved on. He's a good guy. Just wanted, don't make fun of him.
Jeffrey.
Unless he wants it, I'll gladly pass it off.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you gotta be part of it.
Oh, that's the one I decided I was able to read this week. This is actually I've been working on a sermon. So I'm gonna see how my ideas flow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I don't sleep well. That's work. That's about 3 hours. Yeah. Yeah. Do that. And then about
No, not in
see if the airport is go for now. Tomorrow will be a long time. Losing 3 hours. Yeah, 3 hours. So by the time we get there in the afternoon, it's gonna be like, oh yeah. Well, every time. I said they're all in fact, it's kind of a lake well, I think it does. When they got sick, Marty got to go and see.
Unless you wanted to do the talk, then you could do the speaking.
Hey, Jeremy. Jeremiah. What is that? How are you? All right. Interesting stuff. Well, it would be like your mom. It's like telling people what they want.
That doesn't matter.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, we
Oh, okay. Where is she?
I don't know where it's at. I don't know.
Years ago. Yeah.
For all I know, it's fine.
I said, no, it's right by the state. Buddy. She loves hearing you sing, and she always has.
Thank you. She's quite the character. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it never had been a good help.
Awesome, buddy.
Yeah, she's just ready to go.
Good evening, everybody.
Good.
Really great to see everybody, family. Make it all happen. Bible class teachers, everyone attending, thank you so much. There's a few announcements here. Remember, VBS coming up here soon. Don't forget about Erin Stevens. She's here. She's baptized. Congratulations. So excited for you, sister in Christ, and we're really ecstatic. If you don't know Erin, please get to know her. She's wonderful. Angie Shire's mother, don't forget about her for the illness, and I think that's all the announcements I have right now. Anything else I forgot? Good. Thank you so much.
Hi, Jason. Okay, for the talk, we'll have a song. Send the light.
There's a call comes ringing over the restless waves. Send the light, send the light. There are souls to rescue, there are souls to save. Send the light, 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 send the light. Blessed gospel light, let it shine, let it shine. From shore to shore, from shore to shore. Send the light, blessed gospel light, let it shine, forevermore, forevermore. We have heard of Macedonian call today. Send the light, send the light, send the light, send the light. And the golden offering at the cross we lay. Send the light, 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 send the light. Blessed gospel light, let it shine, let it shine. From shore to shore, from shore to shore. Send the light, send the light. Blessed gospel light, let it shine, forevermore, forevermore. Let us not grow weary in the work of love. Send the light, send the light, send the light, send the light. Let us gather jewels for a crown of love. Send the light. Send the light, the blessed gospel light, let it shine, from shore to shore, Send the light, the blessed gospel light, let it shine, forevermore.
Good evening. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. We know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfection comes, the imperfect will disappear. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put childish ways behind me. Now we can see but a poor reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that, read that. That's 1 Corinthians, the entire chapter 13, the entire chapter. Love, as described, is best understood as a way of life lived in imitation of Jesus Christ. That is focused not on ourselves or oneself, but on the others and his or her good. Love is about action. We heard that in a class tonight. Love is about action. How a person lives for the Lord and obeys him, and how a person lives others and serves them, lives for others and serves them. You ask, why is love the greatest? Because what did God do? Right? He showed us through his son Jesus what love really is. He sacrificed his son for us. I know we say that, but actually think on that a second. Those of you that have children, even if you don't, those of you that ever liked a person, would you give them up for me? Or for Josh? Or for James? I don't know. Probably not. That's how great his love was for us. His sacrifice of his son. And what does that son bring to us now? We have a mediator to God. We have someone who's going to speak to him on our behalf. What an awesome gift. If you would like him to speak for you, let us show you how. Let's have a Bible study. It starts that way. Let's talk. Let's see what we can do for you. If you've been baptized and you have forgotten your way and you need some help reestablishing yourself with the Lord, we can help you with that. If you have any other needs, please come while we stand and sing.
Bring Christ your broken life, so marked by sin. He will create anew, make whole again. Your empty ways years he will restore, and your iniquities remember no more. Bring him your every care, if great or small, whatever troubles you, oh, bring it all. Bring him the haunting fears, the nameless dread. Thy heart he will relieve, and lift up thy head. Blessed Savior of us all, Almighty Friend, his presence shall be ours unto the end. Without him life would be how dark, how drear, but with him morning breaks, and heaven is near.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Hear more about God's Word and how He tries to help us. I know Samson's not the model for us to follow, I don't think, but we know what he did, and he trusted in God. Is there anything else before we led in prayer? Okay, we'll have our closing prayer.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for this opportunity you've given us to come together in fellowship and to look to you, God, and to get wisdom and to learn how to love through your example. Thank you for your Son who died on the cross for our sins, that we may receive your love and to be able to love ourselves and love others. Please help us take our lessons and take them into actions in our daily lives and go out into the world and live your example and to learn the lessons and teach others and edify each other at every day. Please help us be home safe. In Jesus' name, pray.
Amen.
Hello, Robert. How you doing tonight? Good, good. Good.
Well, if it's later, you want to know that. All right, so hold on. How you doing tonight?
How you doing tonight? That's awesome. Glad to hear it. How are you tonight?
Well, so the Navy life is really good right now. They don't have, I mean, they don't, do they take care of the house?
No, we still have our house in North Carolina. If we've got any kids that live, we gotta go take a visit or whatever.
That is? How do you know? She was like, can I go show everything I'm hanging? I'm like, it's over. She was like, can I please? I was like, fine. Let's go.
Hey, I'm Ethan. Let's do another.
What's happening, man?
I'm not playing Dino. I don't know.
How's Melinda?
You doing, buddy?
Glad to see you as far as I know.